Hi everyone, we're back with another episode. I'm Sumit,
Hi, and I'm Puneet.
and today, this is the fourth episode of Sisters, Sips, and Stories. And in honor of Valentine's Day, this episode is all about love, that mystical, overwhelming, dizzying, and often exasperating emotion. So I'm sure you can all think of other adjectives to describe what you feel about love. And maybe you will think of more adjectives as we go through the episode. So Puneet will share her thoughts on a couple of her favorite books on the subject, and I will do the same. As you listen to our conversation, we encourage you to grab a warm cup of tea, coffee, wine, excuse me, tea, coffee, wine, or even something stronger, depending on your time zone and the weather conditions, and sit back, relax, and slow down to reminisce and reflect on your own memories and feelings of love. Okay, so to kick us off, Puneet, did you want to talk about the book that speaks to you strongly about love?
Right. So, when we think of love stories, we generally imagine something happy and something fulfilling, warm, fuzzy, these kind of things. But the love stories that we are going to talk about today are a little bit different. Without saying anything much, I'll straight away dive into I'm going to talk about. Uh, that is the book named Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I'm sure people who have even a little bit of interest in reading would have heard about Wuthering Heights. So this was known as one of the greatest love stories of all times. It's a classic, and people are still reading it. People are still discussing it. Movies are being made about it, and the great mystery is why this love story endures till this day and not many of the others. So, Wuthering Heights is as much a love story as it is a story of revenge and passion, with elements of horror also thrown in. Since it's a gothic tale, there are elements of supernatural. It's a very dark, brooding atmosphere in the whole story. It takes place on the Yorkshire moors, and uh, the protagonists have a very deep, dark, brooding, and all consuming kind of love between them. So it's not your usual romantic, nice, warm, happy, fuzzy love story.
It's not a Bollywood love story.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay, so for people who haven't read Wuthering Heights, can you just briefly give us a summary, just walk us through the story?
All right, yes. So, as I said, the story takes place in England in the region of Yorkshire, which is a place where there are these open moors, uh, which are these grassy open lands with very little vegetation, um, just some grasses and all. And it's a very bleak and dark kind of landscape. So, whenever you see an illustration on the cover of one of the books, you'll always see these gray, stormy clouds overhead and a very dark atmosphere with a brooding dark hero in the foreground. So that's the atmosphere in the whole book. And Wuthering Heights is the name of the mansion or the house where the story takes place. The story is of one Earnshaw family, and Mr. Earnshaw finds they're a rich family, and Mr. Earnshaw, the patriarch, he finds an abandoned child in the streets, and he takes pity on the child and he gets him home and names him Heathcliff. So Heathcliff is very opposite to the rest of the characters. The other characters are very English, fair skinned, blonde, and Heathcliff is this small fellow at that time when he's a kid. He's dark haired, dark skinned. He's described like a gypsy. He looks like a gypsy. So the story, so Heathcliff and Mr. Earnshaw's daughter, Catherine, they grow up together and they become very close. And they are the hero and the heroine, so to say. And this love is between them. And but the rest of the society is not very does not care for their bond. Like Catherine's brother is very cruel to Heathcliff. He almost treats him like a servant. And even Catherine herself is very status conscious, very class conscious. So though she loves Heathcliff, she does not want to get married to him uh, because she's thinks in a very practical way that Heathcliff is poor. He doesn't have anything to his name, and he cannot give her the material comforts and the status that she is that she is used to. And therefore, she marries another gentleman by the name of Edgar. And so what she thinks is, in her mind, she thinks that she will marry Edgar for the social status, and but she will always keep loving Heathcliff. So she will divide herself into two parts, like one for the society and one for herself. But obviously, it doesn't work out like that. Heathcliff gets really hurt, and he leaves. And then he comes back after 3 years, and he's a very wealthy gentleman. Suddenly he has earned wealth, and it's not we are not clear how the wealth has been earned. But then he comes back full of hatred and revenge against the society, which does not let the two of them be together. And he takes out his revenge on everybody. He marries Edgar's sister, and he's very cruel to her. They have a child. He's very cruel to the child. So ultimately, I mean, in the middle of the novel, Catherine dies because she is not able to come to terms with the situation, and she kind of starves herself, right? And yes, so she dies, and she has a daughter who is also named Catherine. And ultimately, the circumstances so happen that all the adults die except Heathcliff, and only their children are left. There are three kids. So there's Heathcliff's son, there is Catherine's daughter, and then there is uh, Catherine's brother's daughter, the guy who used to be cruel to Heathcliff. So all these three children are left at the mercy of Heathcliff, and he becomes the master of both the estates, Wuthering Heights and the other one. And he kind of he cannot accept Catherine's death because he keeps going after her out on the moors. He wants to be haunted by Catherine. He keeps asking for her ghost to come back and haunt him because he simply refuses to accept that she is no longer there. He even goes to the extent of going to her grave and trying to dig up her body. And then there is a scene where Catherine's ghost actually does come and wants to come inside the house. Uh, and when Heathcliff learns of this, he goes mad. He goes out on the moor trying to ask, seduce her to come inside because that's what he has been wanting all along. And while all this is happening, he is being extremely cruel to everybody around him. Like his love is shown to be very destructive. If he could not have the love of his life, he never accepts that and matures and moves on. He never does that. uh, his passion is all consuming, so it is destroying others and himself as well. So in the end, Heathcliff also kind of starves himself to death, and finally he is united with Catherine, and the both the ghosts are seen moving together on the moors. So that's the time when finally everybody in the novel finds peace and some kind of happiness, and that's what the story is in a nutshell. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. That's a lot to digest. So tell me, what's your own take on this? Like, did you read it recently, or when did you read?
I have read it many times. Say I've read it at least three times. I think I first read it when I was very young, um, in my teens. At that time, I couldn't really make much head or tail of it. Recently,
Mhm.
when I read it, of course, I could appreciate it more. Um, but and then I read it again when I was doing my literature degree. Then I read it from various perspectives. Examined it, analyzed it, and so there was a question. There was a discussion question about why it continues to haunt us till this day, because this was written in back in 19th century. And the interesting thing is that when it was written by Emily Bronte, and this book is her first and last novel, because she died very young. Shortly after she wrote this, she died of tuberculosis. So she never knew how how popular or how good her book is, because when it was published at that time, the Victorian readers did not take it very well. The reason for that was uh, that the other novels that were being published at that time, like her sister Charlotte Bronte had has a novel called Jane Eyre, and her other sister Anne Bronte has a novel, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. And Charles Dickens was writing David Copperfield and other books at that time. So, in all these novels, if you see, there is a clear hero, and the hero or the protagonist, he is a very morally upright character. Um, you look up to him. He's noble. He does right by everybody. He is. I mean, you can take away some moral lesson from the story. But if you look at Wuthering Heights, I would say like Wuthering Heights was ahead of its time. There is no clear moral angle to the story. Uh, Heathcliff is a hero, yes. He's more of a Byronic hero. He's like a dark, brooding character, morally ambiguous, doesn't have clear morals. And so people don't know whether he's a hero or an anti hero. Is he the hero or the villain? I mean, a strong case can be made. We can prove that in this story, Heathcliff is the villain also, because of the way he treats everybody around him. He kind of destroys the lives of uh, all the people that come in contact with him because of his hatred, and because of his revenge, because of this feeling of revenge that he gets. Uh, so people, the Victorian audience, did not really know how to react to this kind of a tale. Heathcliff does wrong by everybody, but he's not punished in the end. Catherine is, again, her morals are not really Victorian morals, because she marries one person but loves another. So that was not something that the Victorian people could kind of, identify with. So it was received very harshly. The response from the critics was very harsh, and it did not do well at that time. But since then, over the centuries, it has become a classic. It is movies have so many movies have been made on this, and in fact, there is uh, a, a a movie, I think, not a series. There's a movie that is being made even now as we speak. It will be released shortly on Wuthering Heights. So that is the magic of Wuthering Heights. So if you can keep reading it, and it still stays fresh in your mind.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's all
Yeah.
very interesting. Thank you. But what, how do you perceive, like, how do you personally perceive Heathcliff and Catherine? Like, do you have a personal take on it?
I do. I mean, yes, my personal take would be that this is the reactions and the emotions that have been described by Emily Bronte are very realistic. It's not romanticized. It's not idealized.
Mm-hmm.
This would be very realistic, because if you imagine a person who doesn't have an origin, who's an orphan, taken, adopted from the streets by a family, and he's not treated well by the family, uh, people. treat him like a servant or somebody who's lesser than them,
Mm.
that person is surely he will have some kind of complexes, psychological complexes, some trauma in his mind, which is bound to stay with him as he becomes an adult. And on top of that, if the person that he loves also rejects him because he doesn't have social status, that kind of thing is uh, definitely that will cause more trauma. And I think the way in which Heathcliff reacts to that trauma is very realistic.
Mm.
It's it's not idealized, and we all know that life is not so neat and clean as in if somebody is done bad, that person will be punished. It doesn't work like that. Some
Mm.
of the worst people live the best lives in terms
Mm.
of material comforts.
Yeah.
So redemption is not always, it does not come to the deserving people. And that is how Emily handles this story. And I guess that it's a very realistic view of life.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. And also, I mean, so it's a love story, but it's a love story very much rooted in social environments. It's like it's interesting
Yes,
how that love is defined by the social norms of that time, of that society. So
yes,
that's
absolutely.
very interesting. And so, do you want to tell us what wuthering is? What's that reference? What does it mean?
So, Wuthering refers to a place that is very stormy or windy,
Hmm.
where strong winds blow. Wuthering Heights refers to the house which is built at some height, maybe at top of the hill, where strong winds blow
Hmm.
and nothing much grows. There are very few trees and mostly grasses and heather. So that's what Wuthering Heights means. And it actually also defines the atmosphere of the whole story, because the relationship between characters is stormy and tumultuous, and it's never really peaceful and calm. So that's what Wuthering means.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Are you happy with the way the book concludes, or would you give it a different ending?
I think I'm actually a romantic at heart. So I'm very happy to know that Catherine and Heathcliff are finally together, if not in life, then in death. If not as human beings, then at least as ghosts.
Okay.
S- So I think it's a very interesting ending. And
Okay.
whether the ghosts are real or imagined, it's up to the reader.
Hmm.
Whoever reads, it's up to their perception.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess for someone like me, it's also the atmosphere. As if I'm reading on a stormy, windy night, I might be more susceptible to believing that the ghosts are there and all. Would you
Totally.
say, would you recommend that people read it in that kind of weather?
People should read it in any kind of weather. I mean, it's up to it's a personal preference. If you want to really get into the heart of the the story, and you really want to feel what the people in the characters in the story are feeling, then definitely read it on a stormy, windy night in a lonely, dark place.
Yeah.
But if your imagination is too proactive, then don't take that risk because the story is full of ghosts and supernatural happenings, gothic atmosphere.
Yeah.
Probably then read it in your own bed.
Yeah, wow. And just another observation is that the author you said was quite young when she wrote
Yes.
the book. That it seems like a lot of, so you said, how it is a very realistic portrayal of what the denial of social status or the denial of love even can do to a person. Uh, for someone who was that young, to have written this kind of a book on love, that's quite amazing.
And also, Sumit, the very surprising thing is that it's not as if she had a lot of exposure or she had a very active social life. She was almost like she was kind of a recluse. Not, I wouldn't say recluse, but she didn't go out much. She was a spinster. She didn't have a lot of exposure to, and she was a lady of high class society. she didn't go out to work, she didn't have a job,
Hmm.
but even then, staying so in such a limited kind of uh, an atmosphere, she was still able to write such complexities of human character. That is
Hmm.
what is really surprising for me.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's what sets the great authors apart, because their deep observation and understanding of human
Yeah,
emotions and personalities, right? Yeah.
right.
Okay, so you would strongly recommend that people read it then?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So what? Here's a fun question. What if someone's just had a breakup? Should they read it?
Maybe if you've had a breakup, then read something light first.
Yeah.
you know, uh, Steady your state of mind, and when you are calm and steady inside, then read this kind of a, because it's very dark. It kind of consumes you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the whole story is very dark and consuming, and uh, all absorbing. The atmosphere is gothic, dark,
Hmm.
stormy, that kind of
Hmm.
thing. Yeah,
So wait till you are dating someone again and then read
yeah.
it. or
I get it.
or get a pet and then read.
Oh yes, oh yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I want to ask you, do you have any kind of love story to share with us today?
Yes. So I would not call it a love story, but so so staying on the theme of dark uh, stories of obsession, I guess I could call it a story of obsession for sure. In fact, that is how it has been described. So I'm talking about Lolita, which was written by Vladimir Nabokov, who was a Russian-born American novelist. He was also professor of Russian literature at Cornell University, and he's remembered for his complex plots and his clever wordplay. His style, his prose style has been really appreciated by literary critics. So he wrote his most famous book is Lolita, and this was written in 1955. And in the modern library's list of the 100 best 20th century novels, it is ranked fourth, right? So fourth. So and is considered one of the greatest works of 20th century literature. Uh, and so the greatness of the book is more about his writing style and the kind of the parodies and the allegories and that kind of stuff that he uses, not so much the subject matter. The subject matter actually absolutely shocked people when it was published. So just to keep it brief, this is also an anti-hero, although he's a much more disgusting anti-hero even compared to Heathcliff, right? And
Right.
his name is Humbert, and it's a pseudonym even within the book, so we don't actually learn his real name. So this guy, this protagonist, he is possessed by an overwhelming desire for very, very young girls, so almost children, right? And in this book is told from his point of view. So he's the narrator, and he is describing his obsession of a 12-year-old girl, and he calls her Lolita. Her name is actually Dolores, but he calls her Lolita. And so he, so I don't want to get into the details of what happens, but basically he actually constructs some circumstances, and some things happen circumstantially in his favor, but he comes to be her guardian, Lolita's guardian, her stepfather. So, and Lolita's mother dies. So he's, you know, the only adult in charge of this very young girl. He also then separates her from whatever remaining family that she might have, and then abuses her and all that. So, the thing is that so it was as you can imagine, when it was published, people were really shocked. People called it dirty, cheap pornography, that kind of thing, although it's not graphic at all. Like, there's no description of the abuse or anything like that. Um, but so the thing is, but over time, people have, some people at least have come to the conclusion, and I share that view. Like, for me also, when I was reading it, I was horrified, shocked and all that. But it's when you take a moment, when you finish it and you take a moment and step back, you realize that it's actually a window into the mind of of a pedophile, right? This is how they think. Like, throughout the book, like, he thinks that she's seducing him. Well, not throughout the book, but at least when he's describing the initial encounters, he describes it like she's seducing him. Um, and he, in his head, he's thinking that, oh, she's so provocative, she's always, seductive and all this. So, but then you slowly realize that, he's an unreliable narrator. So these are his thoughts, right? Um, so yeah, like I said, for me, it's useful in understanding how pedophile thinks, and how he justifies the abuse of a child, right? And so when I and when I decided that I'll talk about Lolita, this whole Epstein file scandal hadn't blown up. But now that it's blown up, I'd like to say, for anyone who's shocked by all these, allegations of pedophilia on all these powerful men, they should read Lolita. It's really useful in understanding how people think, how they justify it to themselves. So, did I mention she's only 12 years old, the girl?
Yes, yes, you did.
The
And the
only
type,
Sorry, the
sorry,
only
go ahead.
one more thing I want to say is that when she reaches the age of 14, the protagonist refers to her as his aging mistress. So, just
Oh,
anyway.
okay.
So, yeah. What do you think?
I mean, that's really disturbing, I think. Uh, what was your state of mind when you finished the book?
I I was really like, I mean, so the one redeeming thing in the, if you can call it, it's not redemption, but at least towards the end of the novel, the narrator says that if he had been his own sentencing judge, he would have given himself at least 35 years for rape. So there is some, like, at least towards the end, throughout the novel, he's like defending himself and saying, oh, this girl, she's all this. But at least towards the end, he recognizes it. So that was good. But state of mind, I was very disturbed, very disturbed. And then so I read a lot of, criticism, a lot of commentary on it, and how people are academically, how they are approaching it. So that helped.
Right. That always helps if you analyze it and look at it from different lens and all.
Hmm.
So you mentioned that the writer was Alexander Nabokov, right?
Vladimir Nabokov.
Oh yeah, sorry. So any other books by him that you would like to mention? Do you have you
I
read?
can't. No, I've just read Lolita, and that's his most famous one. But he also did a lot of translations of Russian literature. Um, I did read, like, I did look at a list of his books, but I can't recall any names. Sorry. Yeah.
Right, no problem. All
Oh,
right.
the only one other thing that I want to say is that in popular culture, after the publication of Lolita, people, this book became, it was very popular. It was also made into a film, and the film actually did more damage because the film sort of portrayed the girl as a, she was an older girl, because obviously they couldn't cast anybody who was 12 years old. She's an older girl, and they actually filmed her in a sexual way. So the film was criticized quite a bit. Um, so the thing that I want to say was that because it became so popular and so controversial, people stopped naming their girls Lolita. Like, that name now you will not find that name anywhere because it has become attached to the idea of a very young, provocative girl, So,
Right.
yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. I did not know uh,
Mm.
much about Lolita. So when was this book published? 20th?
1955, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so 20th century, right.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, so we've been talking about really, dark kinds of love till
Yes.
now. I think we should move on to something more positive.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, so the other book that I would like to mention in our love episode is a book that I think most of us would have at least heard of, if not read. It's called A Thousand Splendid Suns by the very famous Afghan writer Khalid Hosseini. And so this book, like the love here is not the romantic love between a man and a woman or between two women or anything. This is a sisterly kind of friendship and love between the two women, the two female protagonists of the novel, Mariam and Leila. Um, so for those viewers who do not know the story of A Thousand Splendid Suns, I'm just going to give a short summary. Sumit, have you read the book?
I haven't. I read Hosseini's first, The Kite Runner, and I really loved that one. But no, not this
Yeah.
one.
Okay. So the story starts with Mariam's story. Mariam is an illegitimate child of a very rich man. She stays in a place called Herat in Afghanistan, and she and her mother stay in a small hut by the outskirts of the place, and they are supported by Mariam's mother was this guy's mistress, and she got pregnant, and so she had to leave the job. But then the child is illegitimate, not acknowledged by her father, but financially he supports them a little bit. Now, Mariam's always lived on the fringes of society, and Mariam has been brought up by her mother, who's told her that her destiny is only suffering, and she has to endure it. That's what her mother has told her, and she's kind of internalized it. Now things get very bad for Mariam when her mother dies, and Mariam is still some 13 or 14 years old. Now, suddenly, Mariam doesn't have anybody to look after her. So she goes to the only place that she knows. She goes to her father's house in the city. Her father is a rich guy. He has three wives and his own family. And he cannot acknowledge Mariam because that would be a shame on his good name that he has an illegitimate child. So the whole his wives know who Mariam is, of course, and when Mariam comes, they're all very uncomfortable, and they can't send her away because she doesn't have a place to go. So the solution that they come up with is they marry off Mariam to a much older man in who's a shoemaker in Kabul. His name is Rashid. So they marry her off, and finally it's like, we've washed, and they give her some dowry, and they wash their hands off the whole affair. So now Mariam goes to live with Rashid in Kabul, and Rashid is a widower. He had a wife and a son, but they both died, and now he wants to have a family again, and he tries to have children with Mariam, but there is some problem, and Mariam is not able to carry the child full term. She has miscarriages. She has many miscarriages in a row. So earlier, Rashid is okay. He's a bit gentle with her, but when she has her miscarriages and it becomes clear that he cannot have the child that he desires, he becomes very cruel towards her. Domestic violence, he beats her for small little things. He doesn't let her go out. And also because it's Afghanistan, uh, already those that society is very strict on women, that women can't go out without a chaperone and stuff like that. And so Mariam just kind of accepts her situation, like her mother had told her that suffering is your destiny and that you have to endure it. And she does all that. She tries her best. But Rashid is a very unhappy man and he takes it all out on his wife. Also because he treats her like his property, personal property. And now the second part of the book focuses on Leila, who also lives in Kabul. And she is the daughter of very progressive, educated parents who want to give their daughter a good education and have and wish a bright future for her. And Leila has a classmate and a playmate called Tariq. They are best friends. They go to school together and all. And later they become lovers also when they grow up. So it so happens that Afghanistan is, sorry, Kabul is bombed one day. There's a war going on, and um, there are a lot of bombs fall on that part of the city where Leila lives, and her parents both die in the bombings. Now Leila is left all alone in the world. She doesn't have anyone to support her. And Tariq is also nowhere to be found. So it is assumed that Tariq is also dead in the bombings. And she is like all alone in this city. Now Rashid takes this opportunity. He finds this lone girl sitting, sobbing, crying all alone. And he takes her home that I will give you shelter, come with me, I'll give you, I'll support you. So he takes her home and he gives her shelter and food and she stays with them. And suddenly, and then Rashid is working towards this situation that he wants to now marry Layla because his other wife is infertile, so he wants a child. So he tries to take advantage of the situation. Since Layla has no one left, he proposes to Layla that to marry him. Layla is uh, fighting with another situation. Layla is pregnant with Tariq's child. And in a society like Afghanistan, she cannot be a single mother. Society would not let her live. So she has, and she doesn't have anyone else who would support her or anything. So she actually has no option but to accept Rashid's proposal. So Rashid marries Layla. And now Layla and Mariam, that's how they come in contact with each other. And now Mariam is resentful of this younger wife who is getting all the attention, while Mariam only gets insulted and oppressed. So this carries on for some time, but by and by, the two women develop a very real bond, a very sisterly bond. And sometimes they are like sisters, sometimes they are like friends, sometimes they are even mother and daughter, because Mariam is much older than Leila. And Layla's child is born. Layla's child is a daughter. And Rashid is not too happy with the fact that it's a daughter because he wanted a son. But anyway, life goes on, and Mariam's and Layla's bond gets to be very deep. And finally, Layla gets pregnant again, and then she has a son. Uh, and now we come to know that Tariq is not dead. That was Layla's boyfriend, Layla's lover. He had actually run off in the confusion of the bombing. He'd gone to Pakistan with his parents. And now, when things settle down a bit, he comes back to look for Layla. And he finds her. And then Rashid comes to know about this. And then there is obviously Rashid treats Layla as his property and also the mother of his children. And he would not let Layla go off with Tariq. So here, Mariam steps up. She sees what's happening and she actually kills Rashid. She murders him. So she knows that somebody will have to take responsibility for the murder because the Taliban are in power and they are already very anti-women. They want women to not be too individualistic and stay subdued and stuff. So Mariam actually now packs both the children and Layla with Tariq, and she tells them to just leave the place and uh, go away while she stays there in the house. And when the police come, she admits to the murder. She doesn't try to escape. She says, yes, I murdered him because he was whatever reason she gives. So they arrest her. And obviously she is executed, but that's implied more than shown in the story. Now Laila and Rashid have two children and they're very happy. They're happily settled in Pakistan. And then Laila is pregnant again, once again, and she has a daughter whom she names Maryam to honor her friend Maryam, who sacrificed herself so that Laila could have the life that she also wanted and she deserved. And then, of course, when the things settle down more, they go back to Afghanistan, they go back to Kabul, and they open a girls' school and they name it after Maryam as well. And that is how the story ends. So this is, even though it's Maryam dies in the end, but it's a very positive, very fulfilling kind of love.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Like the very opposite of, Heathcliff's love, which is very destructive. This one
Yes.
is positive. It's yeah, she sacrificed
Uplifting.
it. Yeah, uplifting. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very nice. And I like that you picked something that depicts the love between two women who are supposed to hate each other. Like, society sets, if you're, in societies where men can have more than one wife, uh, actually people expect that the wives will not get along. But here, the wives are not only getting along, but one is going as far as to sacrifice herself for the other's happiness. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah. So, tell me, how has the love between the two? You said a little bit, like you said that sometimes they're like mother and daughter because of the age difference. Sometimes
Yeah.
they are friends. Sometimes they're sisters. So, what are some of the? Do you remember any sort of instance from the book which you liked especially?
So Leila has all when Leila marries Rashid, she's already pregnant, as I said. And after 9 months, she delivers a baby girl whom she names Aziza. And in in the beginning, Mariam and Leila do distrust each other. They're jealous. Mariam is jealous of her because she's younger and pretty, prettier looking, and she receives more attention from Rashid, and the regular stuff.
Mhm.
But when Aziza is born, she feels a kind of grandmotherly kind of love towards Aziza. And then as the child grows uh, in that house, Mariam obviously grows to love the child. She cares for the child just like a grandmother would for her granddaughter. So that so those moments show the mother-daughter kind of bond between the two. And later on, when Rashid is unhappy about a daughter being born, and so he because he wanted a son, so he's also abusive towards Leila sometimes because he's an abusive man. He initially he's not, but then later on he also beats her and taunts her verbally and everything. So that is the time when Mariam feels that the attention of the abuser has shifted from her to another person, and it's Leila now who's at the receiving end of all the taunts and abuses and beatings. So uh, I mean, initially she kind of feels a kind of sadistic pleasure, but very soon she feels pity for her and then she supports her. And then she, if she's beaten, she would, if Leila is hurt, she would apply some healing paste to her wounds and talk to her and stuff like that. So that
Mhm.
is where I think the sisterly and the friendly love comes in.
Mhm.
And then finally, of course, who would sacrifice their own life for someone else? Only a mother would do that for her children, right?
Mhm.
So I think that is the best example of a mother daughter bond that
Mhm.
develops between them.
That's lovely. So, but that sounds like it might have been a tough book to read. Uh, Was it?
Yes, it is because it has explicit descriptions of domestic abuse, and
Right.
it also has it describes a society which is very hard on women and very biased towards men.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
as you know that we, of course, the society we grew up in was not that biased, but it was also biased to some extent.
Yeah.
It also was. So yes, when you read it, then obviously all the time you are comparing the society that you grew up in and the one that you are reading about and how the two compare to each other. Uh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's that's a very interesting title. Did you want to talk about the meaning behind the title?
Oh yes. So the title "A Thousand Splendid Suns" it's been taken from a 17th century poem by a Persian poet by the name of Saib Tabrizi.
Hmm.
And he wrote a poem describing Kabul's beauty and the beauty of its people. And "A Thousand Splendid Suns" particularly refers to the women of Kabul who are supposed to be veiled because they are, Islamic tradition, and they stay indoors mostly or they stay behind veils. So, if I'll just read out four lines of the
Yeah.
poem, and then I will translate them into English so that we
Okay.
can understand what the poet is trying to say. It's in Persian, so bear with me.
Yeah.
काबुल दर जमाने शब बासदा कमर दरख्शां दर दारून दीवारा हजार आफ्ताब तब तबा अस्त.
Mm.
So it means one could not count the moons that shimmer on her roofs. Her refers to Kabul city,
Mhm.
or the thousand splendid suns that hide behind her walls.
Mm.
So he is describing the beauty of Kabul city and her people and referring to the women that hide behind the walls as a thousand splendid suns, very radiant, whose light shines out even though they are veiled and hidden.
Wow. That is amazing. That's beautiful. And I mean, the meaning, of course, is beautiful, but also when you were reading it in Persian, I guess there is a certain lyricality to the language. So it sounded very nice when you read the original.
Even though we don't understand Persian, I sometimes wish I could understand Persian because the language is so beautiful and so poetic.
Yeah.
It would be actually a pleasure to read Persian poetry in Persian, the
Yeah.
original, because the translation obviously loses a lot.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Like, oh, so I have a poem to share later on also. So yeah, I'll also talk about translation a little bit at that time.
right.
But
And also, Sumit, I would like to just add one thing.
mhm,
I just realized that these lines, the title, also kind of refers to a poet's patriotic love for his country and culture and
mhm.
his own people.
Yes,
That's another kind of love.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that's actually a nice segue into what I wanted to talk about next. So we are moving from dark things towards light things. So continuing on that spectrum, I want to talk about Ruskin Bond, the beloved Indian author, and his love for the mountains. And so how you're talking about patriotic love, it's similar to that. It is Ruskin Bond. Anyone who has read his short stories and essays and poems can easily tell how much he loves the mountains, the Himalayas, where he lives, right? Um, but let me just take a step back and talk about him, his life and his work a little bit before I get into that part. So, as we all know, Indian author and poet, much loved. His first novel was Room on the Roof, which was published in 1956 and received the John Lillewin Briss Prize. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Um, he's authored more than 500 short stories, essays, and novels, and a lot of those books and stories are especially for children, written particularly for children. And he has also received the Sahitya Academy Award, the Padma Shri, and the Padma Bhushan. So, just to give you a little bit of a background about his life, because that the kind of life that he's lived has also like it makes sense that he went to the Himalayas to live, and it defines the love that he has for the mountains. So when he was a child, he was no, not sorry, not when he was. I was gonna say when he was child, he was born in Kasauli. No, he was born in Kasauli, and then as a small child, he spent a lot of time in Dehradun and in New Delhi. His father was British, his mother was Anglo-Indian. His father was in the Royal Air Force, so he spent a couple of years with his father in New Delhi also. And he got along really well with his father. He was very close to his father. But unfortunately, his father died while he was very young, and so, I think Ruskin Bond was about 8 or 10 years old when his father died. And his mother had separated from his father, and she was married to someone else. So he went to live with his mother for a while, but that didn't work out very well. So his mother then sent him to live with his aunt in the Channel Islands. It's British territory. And so from the Channel Islands, then he went to London, where he worked as a clerk or something. And that's when he wrote The Room on the Roof. So then that was his first book. And so when that got published and he received a little bit of the advance money at the time of publication, the first thing he did was he used that money to come back to India. Like that's how much he missed India and the mountains in particular, right? So he came back and then settled first in Dehradun and then later moved to Mussoorie, where he lives to this day. And he's very much, a part of the, would you say, the landscape of Mussoorie. Like he's such a famous resident there that everybody knows him. And so, so the kind of childhood that he's had, I guess and being a person of such sensitive nature, he finds such solace in the mountains that he couldn't bear London or anything, so he had to come back. Um, so to give you an example of how he writes about the mountains, he notices the very small things like the smell of the pine needles after it has rained, the call of the whistling thrush, mist drifting through the deodar trees, children walking to school on winding paths, old bungalows, roadside tea stalls. So his writing about mountains is not it's not dramatic or it's not monumental or anything. It's very much a part of his everyday life and observation. But just how tenderly he writes about the mountains uh, is just lovely. I'm sure everyone who has read even one essay or one story of his can relate. So I guess also because like his mother left his father and then his father passed away when he was very young. So to him, I think the mountains are home. They provide him refuge and solace, uh, which is also for me, I can really identify. So I've had a very stable childhood compared to Ruskin Bond. But as you know, you and I and our parents, we spent a lot of time in the mountains also when we were little. And so I can really relate to Ruskin Bond's, how he feels about the mountains. I also feel like that. Like when I visit the mountains, even now, I always say to my partner, I say, I feel like I'm home, you know.
So tell me this thing, one thing. Since when we were young, we read Ruskin Bond a lot. I think that was one of the first few authors that we read because he writes these simple stories that are so appropriate for children. And the few lines that you read out just now, it brought back so many memories to my mind. Children going to school and birds singing on a tree and stuff like that. And so when you say that mountains feel like home to you,
Yeah.
do I don't know if it's going to be a little silly question. Do only Indian mountains feel like
Yes.
home, or do Canadian mountains also feel like home to you?
Only the Himalayas. Only the Himalayas. Whenever I look, I mean, I am totally biased. So when I look at the Rockies, I'm like, ugh, these are not mountains. You guys haven't seen anything. Our mighty Himalayas, come and see. I am always telling my Canadian friends that you've got to see the Himalayas.
So do your
So
Canadian friends think you're a bit of a bore because of that?
my they're too polite, if you know this of any, if Canadians are anything, they're polite, so they will never sort of argue with you, but they kind of say, oh, okay. But no, a couple of them agree wholeheartedly. They're like, oh yeah, yeah. So some of them have seen the Himalayas because they've been to Nepal and all, so they agree. People actually, that's interesting. So people who have seen the Himalayas, have experienced the Himalayas, they agree wholeheartedly, like, oh yeah, like you can't. And so that's the other thing I want to say about the Himalayas, that they're they're so imposing, they're so mighty, they're huge, right? And yet, I feel, they feel like these guardians. I guess that's also from songs, like our national song has that line that
Yeah.
पर्वत वो सबसे ऊंचा हमसाया आसमां का. No, not that line. There's another line which says that they stand as guardians for us.
So in Indian literature, in songs, stories, poems, they are depicted as guardians, and I guess they are guardians because earlier nobody could invade India from the north because of the
Mm,
Himalayas. All the invasions were from the west.
right. But do you share that feeling, like to you, because we went there as children, but did you ever feel scared of the mountains?
I'm not scared, I would say, but I was sometimes intimidated because they're so high,
Mhm.
and the valleys are so deep,
Mhm.
and the mere sight of those snowy peaks, very high snowy peaks, would sometimes kind of intimidate me. I wasn't
Mhm.
scared. I
Yeah,
always enjoyed the mountains. It was and I still do to this day. I
yeah.
love going in the mountains.
Yeah, yeah. No, I share the same feeling. Yeah. So that's right. So the snowy peaks which were higher up, which we didn't access those peaks. So those were a little intimidating. But the peaks, that the mountains where we were actually traveling, those felt like sort of like old friends or guardians, or like they felt like I wasn't scared of them. So yeah, so I just want to read just a couple of things that Ruskin Bond has written. Some of my favorite passages about the mountains. And so we return to the rain, with which my favorite sounds began. I have sat out in the open at night after a shower of rain, when the whole air is murmuring and tinkling with the voices of crickets and grasshoppers and little frogs. There is one melodious sound, a sweet repeated trill, that I have never been able to trace to its source. Perhaps it is a little tree frog, or it may be a small green cricket. I shall never know. There is so much that we shall never know. Ah, sweet mystery of life. So that's
How
typical.
beautifully he describes these small little things. And when he describes these, and if you're staying in a place where actually there are crickets chirping and wind whispering through the trees, he would kind of draw your attention to these small little things that we tend to miss.
Yeah, yeah. And so he draws attention to all these small little things, which obviously he notices a lot. And he notices them in such gentle ways and such poetic ways. Like these are very small things, and yet, he manages to create poetry out of them. So nothing grand, but there's this lovely little everyday kind of stuff.
Yes. And do you remember even Ruskin Bond has also written some ghost stories, if you
Yes.
uh, remember. And I think even the ghost stories are so romantic and so beautiful. I mean, I don't know any other author in the world or any other person who can make a ghost story sound, how should I describe it?
Like,
Uh, Pleasant,
it's
very
very,
pleasant.
very pleasant and very like
Even
sort of even
even his
nostalgic.
Yeah, even his ghosts are friendly. They're not like scary ghosts. They're also very nice, easygoing, cool kind of ghosts that he
Very
encounters.
gentle ghosts.
Yes, that's the word.
And okay, and just
Mhm.
one more thing I wanted to read out, which is actually this was two lines written by Rudyard Kipling, who also loved the mountains, the Himalayas in particular. And Ruskin Bond often uses these two lines written by Kipling to describe how how he feels about the mountains and how like he completely agrees with this. So I want to get your reaction on what you think, how you feel when I read out these lines. Okay. And the last puff of the day wind brought from the unseen villages the scent of damp wood smoke, hot cakes, dripping undergrowth, and rotting pine cones. That is the true smell of the Himalayas. And if once it creeps into the blood of a man, that man will at the last, forgetting all else, return to the hills to die.
I agree wholeheartedly because it's I mean it's surprising how these people were so astute and so observant of human nature, because if you take our case, we never actually lived in the Himalayas. It's only that our father was very fond of driving to the hills at that time, and he would drag the whole family along. Okay, let's go to the mountains, let's go and see this place and that place. So that way I think we've roamed around in all of Himachal and J&K and all the mountains that were accessible to us. And till this day, I think that smell that you described of rotting pine cones and all those views and sights and sounds are very much a part of our being. And like you said, you feel when you go to the mountains, you feel at home.
Yeah,
And I think that is the way I feel also. I always want to go to the hills. I always want to go to the hills. It's just that our lives have become so busy, or, it's not practically possible for us to go. But given a choice, I would, always give, I mean, I would give up this city life in a trice and go and settle in the hills any day, because
yeah,
those experiences are so invaluable, and those sights and smells have become a part of me.
yeah. Agreed.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with Mr. Rudyard Kipling.
And Mr. Bond.
And what? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that was, I think, that's what I wanted
I
to.
want to mention one more story of Mr. Bond. I think everybody, all the listeners would have read it because it was in the CBSE English reader book. It was
Yeah, I
called The
know.
Blue Umbrella.
Oh,
The
okay. Yeah,
Blue
that one.
Umbrella.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
It's also
You
made
see,
into a movie. Have you seen the movie?
yes. I've not seen the movie, because I don't think the movies do that much justice to
Yeah,
the book. So if I've read the original, if I've read the story, I don't need to see the movie.
yeah. Lovely story. Yeah.
And I also want to mention, at the risk of going overboard on time, I also want to mention one particular story and my experience in the Himalayas that is connected to it. So the story is The Man with No Face.
Yes,
If you remember
yes,
reading.
yes.
Okay. And the story goes like this: that a boy is going in the hills. He lives in the hill station, and he's going home through a shortcut in the jungle, and it's already dark. So he meets a person who's coming his way, and he's holding a lantern in his hand. And when the boy goes near that person, he finds that it's a blank. He has a blank face. There are no features, no eyes, no nose, no mouth. and it's a ghostly apparition, and the boy gets really scared, and then he just runs away from that place. He runs with all his strength, and finally he sees a lantern in the distance, and he goes running because there's a person sitting there with a lantern, and he goes running to that person, and he wants to tell him that I saw something strange, and there's a person with no face. He goes running to that man, and because he's an adult, so he finds a bit of comfort in the adult, and he says, do you know what I saw? I saw a ghost. There was a person there, a man who had no face. And then this person who's sitting there with the lantern calmly lifts the lantern to his face and says like this. And then that person also had no face.
Yeah.
And then what happened to the boy after that? So
Yeah.
my experience, Sumit, is like this. I had gone to the hills. Uh, we had driven there in our car, and there's a place called Lansdowne in
Yes.
Uttarakhand. So that was quite some years back, like 20 years back or something, 22 years back. And there are no hotels there. It's an army cantonment, and you just get your room reserved in the mess, and guest room reserved there, and you have to stay there. And there is no commercial activity, no shops, nothing nearby. There's only a small village down, far down in the valley. Okay. So we went to the army cantonment, and people had told us that, carry a torch. This was pre-cell phone era. So they said carry a torch, because if the power goes out, it becomes really dark in the hills, and you can't even see your hand in front of your face. So we went there, and being young and footloose and fancy free, we forgot the torch in the car only. We forgot to, in the parking lot, we forgot to carry it with us. And so this bearer came, and he unlocked our room for us. It was a it was an old room. The lock was rickety. It got stuck, and it there was a special technique to open the lock, and the bearer knew how to do it, and he opened the door for us. We went inside. I hope it's okay if I relate the
Oh,
incident.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Go ahead.
So we had reached there late evening, and we changed. We washed our faces and everything. We changed our clothes because we had to go to the officers' mess to dine. There was no other option. So we came out, locked the room, went to the officers' mess, and there was some distance between the room and the officers' mess, and there was a shortcut through a jungle, through a wooded area. So obviously we took the shortcut because we were walking down. We were not taking our car. So we walked down, we had our dinner, and we had a few drinks also. We lingered over dinner. So it was already quite late when we came back. When we came back to our room, remember the rickety lock? The lock
Yes.
was rickety, it got stuck. We did not know how to open it. And we both struggled with the key. We couldn't open it. Now we were wondering what to do. I was suggesting to Sartaj that we should find a bearer because he only can open this lock. And he said he was quite apprehensive that it's quite late. They've all gone to bed. How will I find someone at this time of the night? And I was like, I mean, we can't stay standing out here. And so we were just figuring it out when it started raining. I was like, oh man, that's all we needed. What more can go wrong? And I said this, and the light went out.
Oh,
The
you
power,
said what more can go wrong? And then the
yes.
power went.
And then
Okay.
the power went out. All right. And then I remembered somebody telling me that when power goes out in the hills, it becomes really dark. And
Yeah.
it was a moonless night.
Oh,
And it was
my.
a moonless night. Okay. And now it's raining, the power is out, it's dark, it's so dark that you cannot see your hand in front of your face, and we
Oh,
have no torch. There are no cell phones at
no
that
cell
time,
phones.
no
Yeah,
cell
yeah.
phones, and there is no moon. Now the only thing to do is, so Sartaj says, I will go to the car slowly. I'll feel my way, and you stay here. I will go and get the torch. I said, no way. Like every damn horror
Horror
movie
story.
starts like this, that the two get separated, and then, either it's you getting carried off by the ghost or me. I said, we'll both go together. So
Yeah.
we very slowly, we were on the first floor. We felt our way down the stairs. We reached the parking lot. were able to get our torch out. And with the feeble beam that we had, now we thought what to do next. And the course of action was that go back to the mess, try to find someone to get him to come with us and open the lock. And so we started towards the mess. So now remember the wooded area with the small pathway in between. So we took that
Yeah.
path. And now there is nobody around. There's absolute stillness, darkness, lonely. In the
Yeah.
distance, I see a lantern bobbing and coming towards us. Only the lantern,
Yeah.
nothing, no hand holding it or anything. And I was like, and Sartaj was very happy. Okay, there is somebody. I said, no, this is
No.
not somebody. This can be something. First, shine the light on his face. Let's see whether he has a face or not.
Yeah.
The guy came nearer. I shone a light on his face. Thankfully, the man had all his features. Then we asked
Okay.
him to help us, and he helped us, and we could
Oh
enter.
my. That is hilarious. Yeah.
And yes, so that was like my real life experience with Mr. Ruskin Bond's ghost.
Yeah. So you have obviously told me this story a couple of times before, but it is so good every time I hear it. Yeah. You saying, what more can go wrong? And then the power went out. Like, that's so filmy, that just,
So filmy, so poetic, yeah.
yeah. And then, Sardar saying that, okay, I'm going to go to the car, you stay here. No, yeah, that's right. That's every horror story. Yeah.
Right.
Very nice. So, I wanted to read excerpts from my one of my favorite love poems, and this is by Pash. So Pash was a communist Punjabi poet, and he was killed when he was very young. Very well, around 40, I think, late 30s or early 40s, maybe. So he was killed by right-wing Sikh extremists, unfortunately. But he left behind a great treasure trove of poetry. I love his poetry. So this one is a love poem where there is this young revolutionary who is writing to his beloved. So I'll not describe it more. I'll just read a bit of the poem. And it's called मैं हुन विदा हुन्ना हाँ. मैं हुन विदा हुन्ना हाँ मेरी दोस्त. मैं हुन विदा हुन्ना हाँ. मैं एक कविता लिखनी चाही सी तू जिसनु सारी उम्र पढ़दी रह सके. ਉਸ ਕਵਿਤਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਹਿਕਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਧਨੀਏ ਦਾ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਹੋਣਾ ਸੀ, ਕਮਾਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਰਸਰਾਹਟ ਦਾ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਹੋਣਾ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਗੰਧਲਾਂ ਦੀ ਨਾਜ਼ੁਕ ਸ਼ੋਖੀ ਦਾ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਹੋਣਾ ਸੀ। ਉਸ ਕਵਿਤਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੁੱਖਾਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਚੋਂਦੀਆਂ ਧੁੰਦਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਬਾਲਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੋਏ ਦੁੱਧ ਤੇ ਗਾਉਂਦੀਆਂ ਝੱਗਾਂ ਦਾ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਹੋਣਾ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਹੋਰ ਮੈਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਜਿਸਮ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਤੱਕਿਆ ਉਸ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਾਸੇ ਦਾ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਹੋਣਾ ਸੀ। ਉਸ ਕਵਿਤਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੇਰੇ ਹੱਥਾਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਰਟਨਾ ਨੇ ਮੁਸਕਰਾਉਣਾ ਸੀ, ਮੇਰੇ ਪੱਟਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਮੱਛਲੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਤੈਰਨਾ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਹਿੱਕ ਦੇ ਵਾਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਰਮ ਸ਼ਾਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਿੱਘ ਦੀਆਂ ਲਪਟਾਂ ਉੱਠਣੀਆਂ ਸਨ। ਉਸ ਕਵਿਤਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇਰੇ ਲਈ, ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਤੇ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਾਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੁਝ ਹੋਣਾ ਸੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਦੋਸਤ, ਪਰ ਬੜਾ ਹੀ ਬੇਸਵਾਦਾ ਹੈ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਉਲਝੇ ਹੋਏ ਨਕਸ਼ੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਿਪਟਣਾ। ਤੇ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਲਿਖ ਵੀ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਉਹ ਸ਼ਗਨਾ ਭਰੀ ਕਵਿਤਾ ਤਾਂ ਉਸਨੇ ਉਂਝ ਹੀ ਦਮ ਤੋੜ ਦੇਣਾ ਸੀ। ਤੈਨੂੰ ਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਛਾਤੀ ਉੱਤੇ ਬਿਲਕਦੇ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਮੇਰੀ ਦੋਸਤ ਕਵਿਤਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਨਿਸੱਤੀ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਜਦਕਿ ਹਥਿਆਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਨੌ ਭੈੜੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਵੱਧ ਆਏ ਹਨ ਤੇ ਹਰ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਵਿਤਾ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹਥਿਆਰਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਯੁੱਧ ਕਰਨਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। So this is one excerpt, and then it goes on. So I'm skipping the rest of the bit, and um, then he goes on to talk about how, his memories of them being together, and then he talks about how he really wanted to live his own zest for life and to build a life with his beloved. He talks about that. And the other thing, if you must have noticed this is in our mother tongue in Punjabi, and the thing for me is the metaphors that he, not the metaphors, the comparisons that he uses, that he compares, he his references are very rural, these dudh diyan chagga and kamada diyan lehra and that kind of thing. So I find that very lovely. um and so he goes on to talk like this. And then the big thing for me also is the way he ends. Like he talks about, so far he's talking about lost opportunities, that we could have done this, but we aren't going to be able to do all this. But at the end, he ends very beautifully. So I will just read how he ends. ਤੂੰ ਇਹ ਸਾਰਾ ਹੀ ਕੁਝ ਭੁੱਲ ਜਾਵੀਂ ਮੇਰੀ ਦੋਸਤ, ਸਿਵਾ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜੀਣ ਦੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਲੋਚਾ ਸੀ, ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਗਲੇ ਤੀਕਰ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਡੁੱਬਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਸਾਂ। ਮੇਰੇ ਵੀ ਹਿੱਸੇ ਦਾ ਜੀ ਲੈਣਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਦੋਸਤ, ਮੇਰੇ ਵੀ ਹਿੱਸੇ ਦਾ ਜੀ ਲੈਣਾ। So he ends by telling her that I can't do it, but you must live for both of us. So yeah, I
It's so beautiful. Yeah, I was going to ask you to mention the this particular line.
yeah,
Mere bhi hisse da ji lena mere dost. So beautiful.
yeah.
And can you just briefly tell us also in what context is it written? Like where was he going? Was he
So
a
it's
freedom
a no,
freedom?
he was a communist, right? So he was so I think he was part of the Naxalite movement, because the Naxalite movement was also at that time quite active in Punjab. So he would have, in protesting whatever the government was doing, he must have anticipated getting arrested or getting killed or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like what a gem of an author and a poet that we lost.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would
Would be
encourage like people to read. He wrote an immense amount of poetry. There's another poem of his that I really like, but that's for another occasion. Sab to Khatarnak it is called. I really like that one. There's a lot. Yeah.
right. So is there any so we've covered English works, we've covered Afghan literary work, we've covered Punjabi work. Is there any Hindi work that perhaps 2 or 4 lines that you would like to end with? Because this is our episode on love. So maybe some
Hmm.
ghazal by uh,
Faiz. So there is this ghazal by no, not ghazal. People will wonder. It's ghazal. So ghazal by Faiz, which also is very popular, that many people must have heard because it's been sung by a lot of singers. It's called Mujhse Pehli si Mohabbat mere Mehboob na Maang. So in that ghazal, the poet is talking about, it's very beautiful because it goes from, this, he's saying that, I still love you and you are still like gorgeous, very beautiful. But now the poet is older, right? He's not that young anymore as when they had perhaps started dating or when they got married. So now he's saying that, yes, I still love you. I still feel very intense emotions for you. But now my attention is also divided between you and, the other things that I see in the world that are not right. The injustices of the world, the sadness in the world, all that is weighing heavily upon me. So don't ask me for that kind of love that I had for you at the beginning of our relationship. Lovely ghazal. Yeah, I
I would actually, if you have it in front of you, I would like you to read out some lines from it. Or if you don't have it, then I have it with me. I can read
oh,
out.
why don't you read it out? I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. So he starts with मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब न मांग मैंने समझा था कि तू है तो दरख्शां है हयात तेरा गम है तो गमे दहर का झगड़ा क्या है तेरी सूरत से है आलम में बहारों को सबा right? And then he goes on to describe the beauty of his beloved, as you said. And in the second paragraph, he describes other things that now demand his attention. And then he says, और भी दुख है जमाने में मोहब्बत के सिवा, राहतें और भी हैं वस्ल की राहत के सिवा, मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब न मांग.
The great Faiz Ahmad Faiz. What a poet. Yeah. Lovely. What a note to end on. Oh, actually, sorry, this is not where we are ending. I also wanted to ask you to, what are your concluding thoughts on? So, we've discussed so many facets of love. And I'm sure when you were prepping for the episode, you had a chance to sort of reflect on love. Are there any, what are your own thoughts on love? How, is there anything that you would like to say in conclusion?
When I was young, I was maybe a teenager, or when I was in my 20s, at that time, love meant uh, very different things. It meant passion, it meant showing a lot of um, kind of showing that love to the person that you love, to your partner. So there was a lot of demonstration in that love. But now that I've aged, like I've lived a few years on this earth, now it's more sedate. My love is more sedate. It's more inward looking. It's more like friendship. It's more in the small little things that you do for each other, or the way that you care for the other person's needs. So right now, I think that is my definition of love.
Hmm.
And what
Yeah.
about you? Yes, what about you? You
So
are a bit younger than me, so I would love
only
to hear.
only a bit younger, but very similar to what you have said. When you are younger, the idea of love is sort of all consuming. It's very passionate, intense. Um, but like you can only sustain that intensity for a while, and that's good because otherwise you won't do anything else. So and also I want to say so on that because it's very similar to what you said. So you already captured that bit. But the other thing that I wanted to say was that I have also observed that around me that that people who do not have love are not doing well at all. Like they are bitter, angry, their health is also not good. And it's not just something that I'm observing, like there is now research on this that shows that love is so essential. So defining love broadly, like we have done through the episode, that not just romantic love, but the love of it can be your parents, friends, pets, or anything like meaningful, positive relationships. So those are extremely important for your well-being and health. And there is like research on this that if you have these relationships in your life, these positive, uplifting relationships, that your risk of heart disease is lower, your immune response is better, your the likelihood of you developing mental health issues is lower, or if you have mental health issues, then if you have good relationships you deal with them better. So there is all of the, like, it's not just up in the air. Like love is so essential for our well-being. uh, and on a lighter note, I just wanted to say that love is you know putting up with Punjabi rap songs at 7 o'clock in the morning that that your partner likes to play to get himself going in the morning, and you are just sort of bleary eyed and you're like, what? And I guess from his perspective, if I think, then from his perspective, because I was asking him like, what's the most annoying thing that I do for you? So he was saying, oh, there's so many. But anyway, so the one that he mentioned, and I know this, that I do this, and you also know this actually, that is very annoying about me. That I guess I have a bit of OCD. So I have these ideas about how you should put the cutlery in the cutlery drawer, and how you should put the plates where the plates are stored in the cupboard. So if they are out of order, then, that's not good. So, he puts up with all that. So anyway, so that's love.
I think so. We conclude this episode, which is dedicated to the Day of Love that is upcoming. And I wish you a very happy Valentine's Day. And
Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah, Sumit would also
Yeah,
like.
absolutely. Happy Valentine's Day. And again, don't attach it just to romantic love. It is love for the environment, love for people, animals, whatever you choose. Right? Okay, so that's a wrap. Bye.